share you my experience in this 3.5 decades and how a sustainable ecosystem can be created to nurture, to promote, and then enhance the research and innovation in higher education institutions. I repeat, to nurture, to promote, and to enhance the research and innovation in higher education institutions. What is the framework we have? What is the roadmap we have? What is the action plan? What is our vision? How do you make it sustainable? These are some of the questions always that linger in our mind. There is nothing like your Kirchhoff law or Ohm's law where there is a straight away formula is there. You capture that formula and then do the implement that formula with a numerical example. There's nothing like that, especially in this field. We have to, as I told in the earlier lectures also, we should first of all assess our potential. Where is our domain expertise in the research and innovation? Compare this with a benchmark institute and do the gap analysis. And then find out process to bridge this so-called gap. So that is the methodology. So that's a general way of looking at it. Now, specific way, friends, like your WIPGR, I always put it with an acronym, IAS. It is not an Indian Administrative Service. It is I for industrial research, A for academic research, and S for sponsored research. So we can have three kinds of categorization. All of you will appreciate, or all of you will agree with me that the most easiest thing in the research and the innovation is the academic research. Even our research scholars, they will say, I have finished my coursework. Yes, I have finished my coursework. I got a B grade or I got A grade. Then I publish a paper, I present a paper, and then it's checked whether it is there in the annexure 1 or the so-called impact factor, and then conduct the synopsis meeting, then finish the PhD. So I finished the academic research PhD. So that's the easiest thing, friends. But the landscape is totally changing. Look at this one. Look at this one. Next slide. Why next slide is not going? Yeah. Look at this paradigm shift. Carefully look at this. I did my PhD somewhere in 95. Those days when you do the PhD and complete it, there will be a red carpet welcome for you to become a HOD, or if you have some more experience, you become a principal. Those days have completely gone. There is a total shift in this R&D paradigm. What is that shift? So we make a humble beginning by making some paper presentations in international conferences, maybe organized by some of the benchmark professional societies like our IEEE, and we present our papers. So and we say, I have presented a paper at the conference and feel very proud. And later the shift is from conference paper presentation, it has moved to the journal publication. And nowadays, the journal publication is so tough that it takes at least 1 year to 1.5 years to get the nod. If you go for a good journal with a good impact factor and good citation you need, then you have to first uh, send the paper. In a few slides later, I will tell you how difficult it is. So the next shift is from paper presentation to the paper publication. And finally, you complete the formalities and get your doctorate, PhD degree. But friends, the buck doesn't stop there. People expect four more P's. Paper presentation is one P, paper publication is another P, PhD is another P, and people look at four more P's. What is that four more P? Postdoctoral research. After PhD, you have to pursue a postdoctoral research in a reputed institute, preferably abroad, to strengthen your research potential so that you can guide people, you can establish state-of-art facilities, you can collaborate with R&D organizations. PhD alone will not help. So you need to do postdoctoral research. Once you do that, then you aim for project funding. It is not so easy to get project funding, friends. You have to you have to prepare a comprehensive proposal. You have to defend your proposal in the forum. You should have an industrial tie-up. You should have got good publications in that area to justify that you have the capability to carry out the project. So funded project is another challenge. Friends, you have to get patents. Each patent roughly takes 4 years for us to get a patent. And again, it doesn't stop there. You need to get products. Patent will become in your biodata, but that is not the end. You should make products, and that product should help the society. We call it socially conscious research. So this is what I mean, friends, the total shift in the R&D paradigm. There are 7 P's in this: paper presentation, paper publication, PhD, postdoctoral research, project funding, patent, and products. So your aim should stop at products, just not at paper presentation, paper publication, and PhD. So this is what is the uh, R&D current expectations. Now in the forthcoming slides, we'll spend some more time on how do we achieve these things. What kind of ecosystem you develop in a higher education institution, what kind of sustainable ecosystem you develop in a higher education system, higher education institute to promote, to nurture, and to enhance the research and innovation. Friends, academic landscape. This is compared to the industrial landscape and the sponsored research landscape. Academic research is comparatively easy. So how do we go about it? Most of the time, we neglect our own undergraduate and postgraduate projects. We neglect our own MS and PhD thesis. Friends, we should also look into those projects. There will be few percentage of projects which will have some research potential, which will have some laboratory prototype development, which can be converted into commercial prototype. So you have to spend quality time to browse that back. You should preserve these projects. If you have a space constraint, you can use it to digitalization. Even for PhD thesis under UGC, you have the Shodh Ganga project through which our PhD thesis are all soft copies uploaded for the benefit of all the people who are working in the domain. So the academic research landscape continues with the undergraduate projects, PG projects, MS thesis, PhD thesis, postdoctoral research work, and then, friends, we have to present our findings in conducting some of the best international conferences for the benefit of other research scholars. When you conduct a conference, we should not focus only on for the benefit of academic scholars. That means a faculty in academic institutions. We should also aim at inviting people from industry in R&D wing, people from R&D organizations. So then only the deliberations will take a shape that will become a product, that will become a prototype, that will become a commercializing product. So your conference presentations should cater to the needs of all the stakeholders. The conglomeration of the scholars should be from all the stakeholders. Friends, when you come to the journal publications, in the forthcoming slide, I tell you how you go about it. We should, by default, we should aim at publishing in quality journals. What do you mean by quality journal? The impact factor should be high. The publisher should be a standard publisher. The citation should be very high. Then only your own H index, your own I10 index, your citation, all that will be very good. Quality publication is important than the quantity publication. At the most, in a year, you can publish 1 or 2 quality publications. There is no point in publishing half a dozen papers in a non-reputed journals. Friends, we should also facilitate conducting workshops and tutorials. What is this workshop and tutorial relevant to academic research? You remember in the international conferences, we used to conduct a pre-conference tutorial when the theme area is slightly broad to enable the scholars to be comfortable during the conference proceedings. We conduct a pre-conference tutorial, sometimes parallel conference tutorials for the benefit of scholars. Hands-on experience, for example, embedded system, robotics, IoT, IIoT, AI, data analytics. So you name an area, you need to conduct hands-on experience-based tutorials. When you come to the workshops, even we have to conduct workshops how to effectively utilize a e-resource. It is not like by trial and error you spend your time to browse something. Some of the scholars we find they browse where is the resource, they say it is a Wikipedia. Wikipedia is not acceptable for a research review, research literature survey. It must be from a reputed journal. So that is very important. And it must be from a reputed e-resource. So how do we browse a e-resource without wasting our time? Optimally utilizing the resources. So we need to conduct workshops with the help of our library staff. We should conduct Scopus in collaboration with the Scopus or whoever the e-resource is. Friends, then once we complete your PhD, the norms for from the university to get a supervisor recognition is becoming tougher and tougher. Sometimes you get a PhD degree, but you don't become eligible for supervising the PhD. So that is not correct. If you are a PhD holder, you should also guide PhD. So there are certain norms for you to become a PhD supervisor. So what are those norms for different categories? Assistant professor, what is the norm? Associate professor, what is the norm? Professor, what is the norm? Are we able to satisfy the norms, or are we traveling towards that to satisfy the norms and become a supervisor? And then comes the conduct of international conferences. So friends, all these things fit into the so-called academic research landscape. Now, friends, we go to the another interesting uh, uh, slide. You will be surprised, friends, when you look at this slide. So I was talking to you about the journal publication. See the cursor, I'm moving it. Journal publication. So what kind of journal publication? How difficult it is? Look at that. I have used deliberately some blue lines from red lines and green lines. So you have the author here. Author prepares a manuscript. The scholar prepares and give that manuscript to the PhD supervisor. PhD supervisor has got so many other activities in addition to guiding the PhD alone. So he takes some time to correct the manuscript by himself, first draft, second draft, and then gives that to the scholar, assuming that that is ready in 2 months' time, or let us say 1 month time, 4 weeks' time. Then that manuscript is going to the editor of the journal. Dr. Manoj, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You are
sir.
audible.
Okay, the slide is also clear now. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now
It's
the
clear, sir.
manuscript is sent to the editor of a journal. So editors, sometimes there will be 3 reviewers, sometimes there will be 5 reviewers. I tell you my experience for that ISA journal. 5 reviewers, after satisfying all of them, when we revise and send it, and that has been sent to the additional 3 reviewers, and that reviewer gives bombarding comments. By the time we lost around 1.5 years, that was a sad story. So, friends, here the manuscript goes to the editor. Editor sends it to the reviewer 1, reviewer 2, reviewer 3. See the blue line, and the reviewers give the comments. See the red line. Comments are given, and every reviewer will not give at a time. Usually, they give 2 months time for the reviewer. One reviewer will take 2 months, another reviewer 3 months, sometimes another reviewer, a very popular reviewer, we cannot send, keep on sending reminders, so he takes 3 months. So average 3 months, and all that will come to the editor. And the editor immediately he will not respond. He has another set of papers, comments in the pipeline. So he takes some time, maybe 10 days, 2 weeks, to consolidate this and then send it to the send that the comments. Can you see the red line here? The comments are sent back to the author. Sometimes the comments are a bit easy to implement. Sometimes it takes 4 or 5 months. So then the scholar sends that with a great hope. See the green line, revised the manuscript to the editor. Editor, sometimes he takes a call by himself, or he sends back to the reviewers. And finally, the acceptation, green line, and that acceptance is going to the manuscript, is going to the publisher. Friends, you tell me practically, how much time it will take, assuming that everybody in the system is not postponing the things. That means scholar gives the manuscript to the supervisor gives the manuscript after correction to the scholar carries out the correction, then it goes to the editor sends to the reviewer 1, reviewer 2, reviewer 3. Reviewers will in turn correct it and send it to the editor consolidates and sends it to the scholar carries out the corrections, sends back to the editor. Just assume these things, assuming that they're all doing without any delay. Just tell me, guess. Can somebody text the message? Can you guess how much time it will take for us to go to this green line, accepted for manuscript? Pragmatically tell me. 1 year, Yogesh Kumar, thank you. You are lucky if you are in 1 year. So this is what is publication, friends. I claim that I have got 100 publications. How it will happen 100 publications when all these things are taking so much time? So friends, the point I would like to tell you is, it is not the quantity that matters, it is the quality that matters. Even if we publish 2 papers, people should cite that paper. That should reflect in your H index. So that is what I mean by a standard publication. So we have to conduct a workshop. I'm telling you the ecosystem. We have to conduct a workshop for the benefit of the scholars. Explain to them this is how a review process is. That is what I wanted to tell the friends. IQAC team also can think of this. Then friends, we should also create awareness about the plagiarism. Nowadays, the rule for plagiarism is very tough, very, very tough. You will be banned as a supervisor. Some disciplinary action will be taken on the institution side. So we must create awareness among the scholars. Who will do this job? IQAC has to conduct this job of uh, asking the concerned people to conduct this awareness program. IQAC need not conduct the program, but they should see that the concerned people, for example, the research coordinator or the librarian, together they should see that this kind of awareness are created. So what is this plagiarism? I don't want to read all those lines. Time is short. So you can read that. Copying and pasting from the text from the e-resources, using the photographs without permission or acknowledgement from the original photographer, or asking somebody to write your own paper, or making some simple changes. If you see the word file, if you click that word, you have synonyms. You simply change that words, grammatical changes, or words from the source, and claiming it is our own work. So those are all called plagiarism, which is not acceptable totally. If you prepare a manuscript, if you prepare your project report, if you prepare your project thesis, You can always check the plagiarism with the help of the free online tools. This slide tells you free online tools. Please be frank. How many scholars know the names of these plagiarism tools? Honestly, maybe people know Urkund, but there are 11 tools here. So this kind of awareness workshops should be conducted periodically. That is what I mean by sustainable ecosystem. That ecosystem should come from higher education institution. The IQAC should ensure that it is being conducted. So this is what about the plagiarism. Let me not read all those 11 softwares. Okay, I go to the next slide. Friends, another interesting, very interesting slide. These are all not available in any textbook or anything. It is all based on our experience. We try to consolidate those thoughts and present it for the benefit of the younger colleagues. Look at these bullets. Each bullet, friends, you have to spend a quality time. Promotion of R&D culture is the heading. Simply, if a higher education institution principal or director pushes the faculty, you do the research, how it will flourish? What kind of promotional initiatives taken by the higher education institution? Look at this. Easy access to the e-resources. Most of the institutions, for the sake of satisfying the committees like inspection committee or accreditation committee, we try to buy certain softwares, maybe some 3.5 lakhs to 5 lakhs e-resources. Will that help a quality research? When I was a director for university library about 10 years back, I still remember we spent around 60 lakhs, I repeat the word, 60 lakhs per annum to buy the e-resources. IEL online, that is also concessional rates. There is one professor, if I am right, Agarwal or somebody from IIT Delhi, he used to coordinate IEL online, IEEE magazines are thrown open. Again, it is 15 user, 20 user, 5 users. If it is 15 user, it is more than 45 lakhs at those days. So we have to spend like that. Easy access to e-resources. For all the scholars, 24/7, the e-resources should be accessible. Then we can expect quality research from the scholars. So sometimes we request the members, scholars or supervisors to become the members of professional bodies. Most of the time when you pressurize that, the faculty, what they do is, sir, I have become a life member of some, uh, I don't demean anything, but still life member of some Indian Institute of Engineers or ISTE like that. But ISTE does not give you any list of journals. They give at the most some education journal is coming, one newsletter is coming. Similarly, Institute of Engineers, they have brought some journals. So we make a humble beginning initially to become members like that. And finally, we should also become member of international societies. There is no life membership there. Every year we have to spend 6,000 rupees. Who will give that money? So the institution, after seeing the uh, potential of the candidate, should sponsor that yearly membership for the International Professional Society. Then he will come to know what are the international conferences that are being conducted across the globe. They will browse the technical magazine like IEEE Spectrum. So their awareness will be better. They guide good UG projects. These are all the outcomes. If you spend 6,000 for a candidate for professional body membership, these are all the outcomes. We can even stress on the deliverables of the candidate and they will deliver it. Suppose he wants to go abroad for presenting a paper, and when the presentation is abroad, the amount will be in dollars, $500. So today's 80 rupees, if you put 80 into 500, how much? 40,000 rupees. ஒரு மாசம் சம்பளம். Who will pay for that? So the institution should help. There must be an ecosystem to see that we help. Maybe you can have your own guidelines. You cannot give for everybody. Some quality conferences, maybe once in a year, once in 3 years. You can have your own policy, but the institution should think of the IQAC should think of this kind of ecosystem. That's what I mean by ecosystem. Sometimes we should also help travel grant if they are going abroad, maybe 50% or 25% from the institution. We should also create some facility. If a faculty is working on a particular domain, unfortunately, that facility is not available in the campus. We have to think of creating that facility. If somebody publishes a good paper in the annual day, we can read out their names, give some kind of awards, rewards, recognition, cash award. And then coming to the right hand side, we should identify some trust areas, form groups based on the trust areas across the disciplines, interdisciplinary R&D. Send the faculty for 3 months uh, on sabbatical to pursue collaborative research. Friends, this Tamil Nadu State Council for Science and Technology, for 6 months they give this fellowship. And there are n number of fellowships, which in the forthcoming slides I will show you. So we have to send faculty members during the summer or winter for about 6 months. The policy can be framed. Everybody we cannot send it. Maybe one for a department in a year, something like that we can think of. But there must be a, a, a ecosystem to send people on sabbatical, to go abroad, pursue collaborative research, postdoctoral research. Then seed money. The PhD scholars, PhD faculty members who completed their PhD, they will be very enthusiastic to do some kind of sponsored research. When they apply for the projects, sometimes or most of the time, apply, no reply. So they get dejected. The institution should give some kind of seed money, maybe 2 lakhs to 5 lakhs for the faculty to do their sponsored research. Some institute can also think of some fellowships for the PhD scholars. Every PhD scholar, full-time scholar may not get a GRF or other kinds of fellowships. So institution to start with maybe 50,000 per month, few fellowships, or each department one fellowship. We can make a humble beginning and later we can expand. Postdoctoral fellowships, awareness program connection. So these are all some of the things we should keep in mind to promote R&D culture in the institution. Friends, resources and repository. Look at this one. I was telling you we have to spend money for resources, easy access to e-resources. So what are all the e-resources we have? IEEE Explore we have, ProQuest we have, Science Direct, excuse me. Science Direct you have, ACM Digital Library, UGC Infonet, Springer Link. So all these, for example, IEEE Explorer, you have around 150 transactions. ACM Digital Library, you have around 40 to 50 transactions. So like that, each of these e-resources will help the scholars to browse, to do the literature survey, and fine-tune their research work. And when you encourage the faculty to become professional body members, yeah, you get the news bulletins, you get technical magazines, you get newsletters. Okay. So now, friends, I was telling you about the trust areas. All of us should understand and appreciate one single point. Whatever we do at the end of the day, though it goes to your biodata, your PhD, your promotion, the PhD, the research we do should be a socially conscious research. That means it should help the society. What is that helping the society? What are the major areas? if you can think of, the first and foremost thing is healthcare, affordable healthcare, indigenous healthcare, replacing the import, whether we can think of contributing research in healthcare, agriculture, another important area where the society will get benefited, clean water, energy, environment. So these are the five important areas you can remember, like your WIPGR. If you want to remember this, you remember like a hockey, HACEE, H for healthcare, A for agriculture, C for clean water, E for energy, and E for environment. Friends, these are the major areas. Now, what is that you have to do is the technology you develop, the domain expertise you have should be used in these areas to see that the society gets benefited. That is what is the challenge. For example, you have sensors and wearable sensors, predictive analytics. Today, the COVID pandemic is going on. Can we use some algorithm to predict what will be the number of people affected in the next 1 week? So that is a socially conscious research. Advanced materials. You remember still Dr. Abdul Kalam, when he did that research in the aeronautical field, he found a light material and replaced the polio affected people's that gadget by means of that light material, and it has become very easy for the polio affected people to use that gadget. That is what is socially conscious research. Advanced material technology, additive manufacturing, rapid prototyping, like your 3D printer, rapid prototyping, natural language processing, biometrics, advanced genomics, bionics. These are also so many areas. Still, if you want some more areas, blockchain technology. About 2 months back, I read in Times of India, the blockchain technology is used in Kerala for a vegetable vendors. That is something amazing. That is what is socially conscious research. Cloud computing, drones technology. Recently, you would have seen in newspaper the drones developed by MIT campus aerospace, the Center for Aerospace Research has been extensively used to spray this uh, uh, sanitizer or disinfector in the places where corona people are affected. That is socially conscious research. So the technology we have should be used for the areas that are helpful to the society. We should have such kind of ecosystem. The robotics, recently you might have seen in newspaper, our own team, instrumentation from my side, electronics and the automobile and production department, we made a robo which is threefold. The doctors can view the corona patient conditions from a distance, remotely controlled robo through that 100 through that camera. The nurses need not get inside. The food, the medicine, the water will be supplied through remote, and the health workers need not come inside. The spray is done automatically. A typical threefold, three-in-one robo was uh, designed, developed, and indigenously fabricated and given to the hospitals. That is what is a robo. If you are an expert in robo, and that robotic technology should be useful to the society. Fintech is another interesting area. So I did not go everything in detail. So this is what my point here is. The research should help the society. What are all the areas you can think of? Healthcare, agriculture, clean water, energy, environment. In these five areas, can we throw these uh, domain areas as an application to address the societal needs? Friends, this is another slide. Very interesting slide. I spent more than 3 hours to collect this data, friends. Look at the exhaustive list of research fellowships. Most of us know UGC fellowship or JRF or JRF and SRF, Senior Research Fellow, JRF. Look at this list here. DST, DBT, CSIR, DSIR, SERB Research Fellowship, JC Bose National Fellowship, Ramanujan Fellowship, Boy Scouts Fellowship, ISRO Respond Fellowship, UGC Dr. Kothari Fellowship, Dr. Radhakrishnan Fellowship, Startup Grant for Young Scientists, Early Research Award Scheme, CSIR Young Scientist Awards, and then Scheme for Young Scientists, IYBA Innovative Young Biotechnology Award, DBT JRF, Indo-US Fellowship for Women exclusively, Nehru Fulbright Fellowship, Fulbright Kalam Fellowship, JSPS, DAD Fellowship, TNSCST, that is Tamil Nadu State Council for Science and Technology Fellowship. So who will create this awareness? My question. It is the responsibility of the higher education institution to provide this kind of information. How do we do that? IQAC should think of promoting this with the help of the concerned department. The department concerned here is the research cell in the institution. Periodically, this kind of awareness program should be conducted for the benefit of young faculty and research scholars.
Participants kindly mute.
Thank you. And friends, then we can ask them what fellowships you have applied, why you have not applied, all that questions we can ask. But awareness creation, it is our responsibility. I must conduct this kind of programs periodically. என்னைக்கோ ஒரு நாளைக்கு நடத்திட்டு, that's not okay. Periodically. Friends, sponsored research. This is another very, very tough job, friends. Professor, you please tell how much time left for me?
Another 15 minutes, sir.
Okay. Sponsored research. Sometimes we get carried away when an interesting topic comes like this. So sponsored research, friends, is first we should conduct a one-day workshop how to write a proposal. It's not so easy. So hands-on training, how to prepare a proposal. Then you should also have mentoring by the senior colleagues. We should make mock presentation of our PPT proposal before we go for the presentation with the agency. We should also think of a tie-up with an R&D organization or an academic institute of higher learning, or tie-up with the industry. We should also explore interdisciplinary mechanical, electrical, and computer together. Can you think of a socially conscious research? Have you done market survey? Is commercialization possible? These are all the different angles nowadays the agency looks at your proposal. It's not only your technical expertise. They will check whether you have done market survey. They will also check whether you have a tie-up with industry, whether commercialization is possible.
access இல்லாம இருந்தது. மத்தபடி record ஆயிட்டு இருந்தது.
Okay.
சரி, சரி.
Okay. So next comes how do we network with the other stakeholders? The higher education institution, to promote research, we should also network with various agencies and institutions, all government agencies, R&D organizations, for example, CSIR labs, for example, CLRI, for example, CRE, for example, SICRI, for example, CSIO. There are n number of labs like that under DRDO, under CSIR. So we should have a tie-up, ISRO, for example. And then we should also have tie-up with the academic institutions which are better than us. So you know the NIRF ranking, you know the NAC accreditation, NB accreditation. From that you know who are all the best institutions. We should have a handshake with them, a formal tie-up in the form of a memorandum of understanding, professional body tie-up, IEEE, ISA, ASME, like that, SAE. Then with core industries and with IT companies. So we should have this kind of a formal tie-up with a memorandum of understanding. Memorandum of understanding should have a clear-cut objective. Why is that I am going to have a tie-up? What is the deliverable from our side, from their side? Who are the stakeholders? How frequently we review that? Based on all these things, we can renew that. To start with, it can be for 3 years. So these are all the things that will promote research culture. Friends, you have one more interesting slide. List of funding agencies. When you say funding agency, generally people will think of 4 or 5: AICTE, UGC, DST, CSIR. I have n number here. Here I have shown around 20. I will send a WhatsApp message to Professor SUP. 120 agencies. For example, Department of Coal. Here I want to make one point. People should not think that Department of Coal, what electronics people have a provision. Friends, coal burning depends upon the ash content in the coal. Can we do some image processing analysis to comment on the efficiency of coal burning? Image processing is electronics domain. Mining industry, similarly, earth sciences, mining industry. Can we think of applying some kind of image processing there as an electronics? That is how we will get. எல்லாருமே டிஎஸ்டி டிஎஸ்டின்னு போட்டா எங்கிருந்து கிடைக்கும்? எல்லாருமே ஏஐசிடி போனா எப்படி கிடைக்கும்? So who will create this awareness? The research coordinator in the campus should conduct this kind of awareness programs. IQAC should ensure that this fellow has conducted that. Attendance இருக்கணும், ஒரு top people கூப்பிட்டு presentation கொடுக்கணும், hands-on experience இருக்கணும். Then there must be some kind of deliverables, concrete deliverables. ICMR, for example. And look at this slide: Indian Meteorological Department, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Water Resources, Petroleum, finally the UGC program. So the list is endless. And then international funding. நிறைய பேருக்கு இந்த டீடைல்ஸ்க்கு வந்து தொடவே மாட்டோம் நம்ம. Look at the funding. You have ample opportunities. Japanese Society, German, DAD, UKRI, UK, எல்லா வெப்சைட்ல இருக்கு. காஸ்ட், யூரோப்பியன், ERC, European Research, Erasmus Mundus. Last year we went for Erasmus Mundus and visited a benchmark QS top 20 ranking institution, Edinburgh, University of Edinburgh. So that kind of exposure is essential for us. We have to apply. அப்ளையே பண்ணலன்னா எப்படி நம்ம வந்து கூப்பிடுறது? So this awareness should be created. FNRA, French National, NSF, National Science Foundation USA, UNESCO, Norway, Indo-Norway project, Indo-Italian project, Australian-India strategic project, Indo-Canadian project. Indo-Canadian project ஒரு காலத்துல NTTI, that is National Technical Teachers Institute, they harvested like anything. They did a fantastic job with the for polytechnic institutions. So we have to browse these websites. We should see where we can apply and get the funding. This is about the international funding. The list is endless, but I just try to project some of the things. Promotion of all this. So far I talked about academic research. I talked about the sponsored research. Now finally I conclude with industry-oriented research. How do we do the industry-oriented research? So friends, you can request the industry to give fellowship for our PhD scholars. We can also think of conducting joint conferences. We can invite the R&D wing of industry PhD holders to be examiners for our PhD scholars. Joint supervision, joint publication, joint patents. And then establish the state-of-art facility with the funding from industry. Sharing our own facilities with the industry. So there must be a win-win situation. So if you can think of this kind of model, definitely industry-oriented research can be promoted. So to make a humble beginning, friends, on a weekend, Saturday, you can invite the industry people in and around for a half a day workshop. Each of the faculty member, each of the department head can present for about not more than 5 to 6 minutes. Otherwise, it will be boring. 5 to 6 minutes you can present, and similarly, the industry people can present their strengths. Then you find out mutually common areas, and then identify a coordinator to promote further collaboration in that common area, and end with a nice business lunch. And you can have a review meeting after 3 months. So this is how we can think of promoting industry-oriented research. You can conduct an open house, inviting industry people to showcase your facilities. They should believe us that we have potential, we have equipment, we have sophisticated equipment which may be useful to them. It is like a win-win situation, sharing the facility. Then they will come forward to fund you to further enhance the facility in your institution. Okay. This is another consultancy, commercialization. Another important thing with this, I'll stop. As we faculty members, we have our own constraints. We can develop a technology, but we cannot make multiple products and and uh, commercialize that. That is not our scope. Product development is our scope. Then what is the method of making it a commercial product? There are established methods. One simple method is we should identify an industry who is interested in our laboratory prototype. Then we can have a technology transfer. The technology transfer can be two ways. One method is outright technology transfer. Our technology can be transferred for 5 lakhs or 10 lakhs, and he will promote that by making multiple units, and he will sell it, commercialization. The second technology transfer method is we on the royalty based. That means the technology you don't fully sell it to the industry. He will make multiple components. As and when he sells a component, some 10 to 15% of the royalty, like your textbook royalty. So that is another model. There are established models even on our university website also. A lot of data is available in this. Product development, commercialization, technology transfer. You can have all these hands with the help of industry collaboration. We can even prepare a compendium. Compendium means a booklet consists of all the major equipments, their usage, and a single point of contact with email ID, mobile number. You can upload in your website, and people who are interested will pursue that. You can even send email for all the industries, that booklet, and people will know whenever they need, they find a need, they will interact with that person and utilize that facility. So these are some of the things what we can do to promote industry-oriented research. Okay. So to conclude, friends, what I wanted to tell you is we need to look at the R&D in three ways. One is academic landscape, and second is sponsored research, and third is industry-oriented research. So how do you develop a sustainable ecosystem? I have a simple model. With this, I will end. So you have departments here, you have center of excellence here, and then this will promote the academic R&D, sponsored R&D, and the extension activities. Extension activities means I mean this consultancy, testing, all that kind. Then you can have a cell for technology development and transfer. You can have a cell for industry collaboration. You can have a cell for intellectual property right. You can have a cell for innovation hub. You can also have a cell for entrepreneurship. So all these people together, they work, and that input is given to the higher education institution. Then this in turn will interact with the government agency, academic organ. I showed you one networking slide. Academic institutions, R&D institutions, industries, and with all these inputs, the HCA gives back the input to all these people. So that is how we can nurture, we can promote, and we can enhance the R&D and innovation in higher education institutions. So over to Professor SUP. Thanks for your patient hearing. I can answer five or a few questions before we wind up.
Thank
People
you so
can,
much, sir.
yeah,
I'm just looking at the chat box.
yes.
Uh,
Did I cover your expectations in this
yes,
student's
sir.
lecture?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What kind of promoting, how we can promote research and
Yes, sir.
innovation?
So there is a question from Dr. Dinakar, Principal Sri Ramakrishna Dental College. Are
Okay.
faculty entitled for remuneration for research project from funding agency apart from their regular salary?
No, there is no provision. There is no provision. With
That is,
the agency utilizes the expertise of the faculty in the institution. In turn, the institution gets the benefit of acquiring that equipment to 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 conduct that research. Equipment will be with the institute. The fund is from the agency. What is the benefit means the institute gets the benefit of that equipment. Sometimes they also give overhead charges to meet out your electricity maintenance and the faculty time. For all that, around 15% overhead charges. There is no remuneration for the faculty. Then what is the benefit for the faculty? Means it is the mandatory role of faculty to help the society and system in the R&D endeavors. Yes, please.
there is another question from Dr. Selvakumar. For
Yes.
international funding proposals from a self-financing institution, should
Yes.
we have earlier contacts with that funding agency? Because in
Yeah.
proposals, they ask for that country contact details also, sir. Your
Yeah.
suggestions, please.
Yeah, you are right. Even whether it is self-financing or university or any government institution, that holds good. That means I must have an interaction with the foreign professor. I should get a consent from them and then only proceed. So how do we do this means, Professor Selvakumar, in one of the slides I told you, we should have a facility in the institute to send people abroad during summer and winter under sabbatical. You can work out a plan, maybe one faculty in a year, something like that you can work out. But you should establish contacts like that. You can also establish contact through the international conference. When you go abroad for presenting the papers, you get the contacts, email ID, so you interact with them. Sometimes you go for a international conference is one, sabbatical is one. Sometimes in the foreign funding agency like your Erasmus, in that Erasmus, the UK gives funding for us to visit foreign countries. So there you establish tie-up. So that tie-up should be carefully preserved and utilized for this kind of international collaboration. Next question, please.
Yeah, there is a question from Mrs. Susikala. She is from our mentee institution, sir.
Which
Whether we
institution?
need, she is from, I think, Angel College.
Okay. What's the question?
Whether we need NBA and NAC for funding proposals.
It's a good question. Yes, for each and everything nowadays the agencies insist on what is sometimes NIRF also. What is your NAC grade? Sometimes just NAC will not help. Some higher grade should be there. So that is one kind of a scale to reflect our quality, our potential. So NAC accreditation grade, NBA accreditation grade, NIRF ranking, and QS ranking for that matter, all these matters. Your H index of the institute, average impact factor of the institute, quality publications, overseas exposure of the faculty, all these matters. Yeah. Next question, please.
Another question from Mr. Suresh. Sir, how much
Yes.
priority is
Yes. How much priority?
given to the self-financing colleges regarding funding by the funding agencies.
Mr. Suresh, kindly take out that mindset that self-financing, please. Where there is a quality, it is always respected. I too worked in a self-financing institute, and I was invited by a QS BRICS ranking top 10 institute to pursue postdoctoral research. I was in a self-financing institute at the time. I was invited by an international publisher to author a textbook. It has gone nearly 54,000 booklets now, as of now. I was at that time self-financing institute. So there is no segregation like that. Then how do we project ourselves? Our publication in a quality journal. That speaks us volume, our impact factor, our H index. So all that matters. We need to have, even for that matter, if you are in a government institution and apply without this kind of quality parameters, it will be a challenge for us to get the project. எத்தனை project apply பண்ணி no reply for me. Today I claim that I have 15.6 crores funded project. Do you think just like that came? I would have given more than 50 proposals. அதில் ஒரு 10 proposal தான் select ஆயிருக்கும். So it is a challenge. There is no segregation for self-financing or government institution. It depends on the potential. Even for DST FIST, they bombard like anything in the presentations. All IIT professors, they sit and thoroughly check. Then how do we defend? Means we show our publications, domain expertise, the PhD guidance we made, the earlier projects we did, the industry collaboration we did, the overseas exposure we had, and we combine that. This is how we deserve ourselves to get funding for in this area. So that's how we project it. So to Suresh, to conclude, there is no segregation like that. It is the CV that makes us get through the proposal.
There is another question, Dr. Karupaswamy. For
Yes.
certain funding, relevant publications are required to be mentioned in the funding applications.
Exactly. That's what I was telling to Suresh.
But for publications, we need to conduct research. How to handle this situation and get benefited out of it?
That's a good question. So for quality publication, funded project alone will not lead to quality publication. First thing is, when I am doing my PhD itself, I must do a quality publication. It starts there. Then I get a supervisory recognition. I guide the PhD scholars. I must ensure that simply ஒரு PhD முடிக்கிற மாதிரி பண்ணக்கூடாது. I must ensure that my scholar publishes in a good journal. Good impact factor. 5 வருஷம் ஆகட்டும் பரவாயில்ல. Quality இருக்கட்டும். ஒன்னு வந்தா கூட போறோம். So that is how the quality impact. Then with the help of our own UG PG projects, if you can correctly plan our project, maybe one student does half of it, the other student's batch does the remaining half of it, combined together, you put it in a good journal paper. So based on our UG PG project, PG project, especially PG project guidance also, we get a good publication. So this publication, we do the postdoctoral research abroad, we get a good publication. So this is how we develop the publications, and then that will finally lead to the sponsor project funding. It is not that after getting the funding only I do the publication, and without publication, how do you get the funding? It's not like that. Publication starts from our own PhD work, then PhD guidance, then postdoctoral work, maybe some quality PG projects converting into publication. This is how publication increases. Next question, please. Last question.
There are no more questions, sir.
Oh, very good.
And a lot of participants, they have expressed their thanks to you and
Okay.
patiently answering all the questions and answers to the participants.
Okay.
So if no more questions, shall we wind up the session, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. And next Saturday, what was the lecture?
Today it is tips on preparing the IITA.
Oh, yeah. You please tell the participants not to miss that. You get,
Sure, sir. Sure.
though it is available in the website, but there are a lot of tips we have to
Tips,
listen
yes, sir.
carefully
Sure, sir.
to avoid any difficulty at a later stage.
Sure,
Okay.
sir. Sure, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. What is the
And last
seminar?
session is best practices, sir.
That's also very interesting. Okay. I'll take 2 case studies and tell that.
Yes, sir.
So still our participants are there, escape ஆயிட்டாங்களா?
இருக்காங்க, sir.
Participants
They are there.
182. That's very good. I'm very happy to see the enthusiasm of the participants.
Thank you,
நான்
sir.
நான் அவங்க லெவலுக்கு எடுத்தேனான்னு தெரியல எனக்கு. I hope
Thank you, sir.
they have got some input from me. Any feedback is there, frankly, you share it, madam, so that other two I will further live up to their expectations. Thank you very much,
Please, sir.
Dr. Manoj, Professor
Thank you, sir.
Prabha, madam. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for that wonderful session, sir. Thank you.
Okay. I'm leaving the meeting.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Dr. Manoj.
Sir, yes, sir.
போன லாஸ்ட் இது ஃபீட்பேக் எனக்கு வரல, கொஞ்சம் ஃபீட்பேக் அனுப்பிச்சு விடுங்க.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. I will send you that, sir.
ஆமா, லிங்க் அனுப்பிச்சு விடுங்க. இந்த வாட்டி தான் ஃபீட்பேக் கொடுங்க. ஃப்ராங்க் ஃபீட்பேக்கும் கொடுங்க.
Okay, sir.
சில
Okay.
பேர் எல்லாரும் நல்லது போடுவாங்க. சில பேர் வந்து கொஞ்சம் knowledgeable participants வந்து
Okay, sir.
given true feedback that will help me to further fine tune my other 2 presentations. Okay.
Okay, sir. Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Dear faculty members, I request all of you to fill the feedback form. You can leave the meeting.
Manoj, shall I leave the meeting, Manoj?
Yes, ma'am. You shall be.
Yeah, I have filled the feedback form. I am leaving the
Oh.
meeting now.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks to all the participants. Thank you.
Madam,
Sir,
regarding feedback form, is it been sent to mail or?
sir, it is available in the chat box and you can just look at the chat box, sir.
Yeah, okay, ma'am. Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.